While the Democratic Party is having a civil war within itself on real policy grounds of whether or not you should raise the minimum wage at a time during a national pandemic, Medicare for all these other different things. They're actually focusing on pandemic relief and responding to the crisis and figuring out how to jumpstart the economy. Meanwhile, in the Republican Party, potatoes, Dr. Seuss, and cartoon bunnies have been living in the Republican Party's head rent-free. I mean, it really turns out that, like, after CPAC and the Conservative Political Action Conference that was, like, all about canceling cancel culture, that was literally the theme of the big brain meeting for the Republican Party this year. This is all the party is capable of doing. All the party is capable of doing when they're out of power and they don't have any justifiable reason to be upset about their status of the country, other than the usual blacks and immigrants and poors are taking our jobs kind of spiel. All they've got left are these fake cultural dramas and issues. To go through them really fast, there was the idea of Potato Head. There was announced the makers of the Potato Head toy are no longer going to sell the toy as Mr. Potato Head. It's just going to be Potato Head. Go on.
No, I was wondering why you were calling it Potato Head. I was like, oh yeah, they changed it.
Yeah, you're about to get canceled for using the old name, Mr. It's MX Potato Head now, MX only. No, but like the idea now is that, yeah, like this is a toy that from its inception, you've been able to take the pieces off of and make it whatever you want to. So the conceptual idea of a Mr. or Mrs. is kind of like beside the point. Nevertheless, this scratching of the label that a company decided to do on its own, not from a lot of real like anger or frustration from anyone, all of a sudden like, oh, these liberals are coming to take everything away from us. Cancel culture, cancel culture, cancel culture. This happened again where the Dr. Seuss Foundation, the estate that basically decides everything that goes on with the Dr. Seuss empire, right? Said that, hey, in the spirit of Dr. Seuss himself, we looked at a couple of the books in the like Dr. Seuss series, and we were like, some of these are a little racist AF and have a lot of tropes that are really big in yellow peril and anti-Asian racism and anti-black racism and all these other different things that are just outdated things. Dr. Seuss, I think there's a recording or a quote from him in the 1960s where he's even saying like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff I wrote and like made illustrations about or had illustrations made of that were based on really racist tropes from the time. And those are from the time, and that's why I wrote it right then, but I don't like it right now and I regret it. So again, this is a decision that the Dr. Seuss estate is making on behalf of their own company privately as to what they want to do in response to changing social dynamics in the world. There were no really big mobs or arguments beforehand or major campaigns pushed forward by anyone for Dr. Seuss to change their books because, quite frankly, I don't give a shit. But all of a sudden, the right goes, cancel culture, oh no, we can't do anything. We're not allowed to say anything. There's no comedians on college campuses anymore. There's no college campuses anymore. College campuses are evil. They're all full of liberal hippies. Cancel culture, it's the thing. It's evil, it's coming for you.
They are banning Dr. Seuss books. How much more do you need to see before all of America wakes up and goes, this is fascism? This is fascism. You don't destroy books. What is wrong with us, America? Go out and buy those books today. Find out if you can get them. Buy Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head because it's the end of an era. It is the end of freedom in America.
And so, like, I've got so many opinions. I've said too many of my opinions on cancel culture already, honestly. So, bam, let's go in on this, please.
I mean, cancel culture, like, it's not even real.
Correct.
Like, it's so funny that it, like, when I kind of started to see it more and more last year, I feel like maybe it generally kind of gets more hyped up around people wanting to get rid of certain statues. And they're like, oh, it's cancel culture. And I'm just like, and then whenever some celebrity says something salacious or they like do something criminal or something. That it's just weird. I'm like, what is this thing? Like, if Louis, whatever Louis C.K. did, he didn't get canceled. He stepped back because he got outed for doing some really messed up things. It's not like some cancel. Like, I'm always trying to figure out who's been canceled. Like, who has actually been canceled? And honestly, whenever they're talking about these statues and stuff, and I'm probably getting clouded because I was going through the 1776 project last night, and I don't know if I think they mentioned Kenner, or at least they mentioned canceling.
For the folks at home, can you explain what the 1776 Commission was? And like what kind of brain smoothing you like put yourself through? Because I think we ought to like actually give you some props for doing this.
Oh my God. So I was wanting to see what this, well, okay, there was a 1619 project that came out. I want to say 2019. Yeah, for sure, 2019. It was kind of, not
I think people kind of grossly know about the 1619 project. It was a thing by the New York Times, basically establishing the roots of American slavery and trying to recontextualize that. And it caused a lot of anger from conservatives because they were like, how dare you imagine America with slavery and America being bad? That's poisoning. The children shouldn't understand that America was bad ever, or the nuances of like good decisions and bad decisions. It's so like the 1776 Commission was like a response to that, right?
What you just said is the entire 1776 project. Like, that's what it is. Like, it's literally like, you know, a kind of a very ahistorical retelling of American history to a degree. And
not only that, like, just to be clear, like, it was an advisory committee that was established by President Donald Trump at the time in last September to basically go like, why are our schools not being American enough, or why are we not teaching American enough ideals? And so we had this task force essentially look into this, and they came up with this propagandizing report, basically retelling like a response. Basically, they put government resources to do a response to a New York Times op-ed column.
Yes, literally. It is completely ahistorical. It has actual lies in there, and it's really fascist at times. It's like talking about patriotic education. I think the worst thing about it though is that it tells American history without mentioning the indigenous people of this land one time. Jesus. It does not mention Native Americans once. Like, they talk about slavery. They're like, you know, yeah, slavery happened. It was bad, but the founders wrote the Constitution to end slavery. America fought to end slavery. And it's ridiculous because I'm also like, well, if America fought to end slavery, then why are we celebrating these Confederate soldiers then? They don't really, you know, get into all that. But then they do mention like, oh, you know, ripping down statues, but they don't say who. Clever. But the worst thing is that they don't mention that this land was colonized. It's a settler colonial project.
It's genocide denial, essentially. What's your kind of describing?
100%. And when I was reading it, like getting, you know, and I'm taking notes and stuff, and I got to a certain part, I'm like, they haven't even like mentioned Native Americans yet. Like, what's going on here? And I was like, let me just do a search. And then it's funny. I was like, it's weird. I was like scared to do a search. I'm like, there's no way they didn't mention them at all. Like, there's no way. Because I'm like, okay, well, they had to mention them by now. But, you know, maybe they're going to do a whole thing later. And I was like, okay, you know what? Control F. But indigenous, nothing. Native, nothing. Indian, nothing. Like, insane. This is what we're dealing with. These are the people that are talking about cancel culture. People that want to erase swaths of history, want to erase entire people. That's the type of person that wants to talk about cancel culture. If you can't be honest about what's going on in the world, then you're going to be obsessed with cancel culture. I don't even know what canceling somebody is. I don't even know, but they're talking about Dr. Seuss and Potato Head, almost said Mr. Non-binary potato. Um, those companies made those decisions on their own, but that's no different. All corporations have PR teams. All politicians have PR teams. What are they there for? To make sure they don't F up. Like, make sure they don't say something wrong. Archie Bunker used to be on TV saying all kinds of racial slurs. The network made the decision, like, you know what, times are changing. We can't be having them on there saying that stuff. Even when I was a racist buffoonery, coonery cartoons on TV, when my mom was a kid, those cartoons were on TV. And there's, if anybody wants to look up the Spike Lee movie Bamboozled, at the very end, there's like a whole montage, and you can find just that montage on YouTube, showing like a bunch of these like a bunch of blackface shows, a bunch of like cartoons with blackface and stuff like that. Those things were happening for a long time, and then through pressure from people and also society just kind of being like, you're right, those things change. Nobody got canceled. Some is racist and outdated. There's some stuff you can't be getting away with anymore. And even black people not suffer, but black people have to do that too. It's like some comedians and stuff or whoever, celebrities used to say stuff and they're like, let me not be saying that stuff anymore. Also because they don't want the people that used to say stuff about black people saying that stuff either. You know, also, these people want to say, oh, I can't say anything. All these people that's like talking about cancel culture got the biggest platforms.
Right.
Like, I don't want to hear Glenn Greenwald.
I'm being censored, I say, from my podcast microphone with 2 million viewers.
Like, literally, like Glenn Greenwald, Tucker Carlson, all these people, like, you're at CPAC, and you're talking about, like, you got the invite. Like, you're there. Like, there's a million cameras and microphones. You're not even going to be muffled by your mask. You canceled the lady that, y'all canceled the lady that asked y'all to put on masks. Y'all canceled her.
Yo, like...
Like if you got 1 million subscribers or in some big multi-million-dollar news show and you're talking about cancel culture, like get out of here. You're fugazi.
Yeah, absolutely right. Like there's something to be said about how the elite are the ones who get upset about cancel culture the most. And it makes sense because like they're the ones in the media who would be the ones who stand to be affected the most by it. But there's this issue in the media where too often people have blended, regular everyday people have blended their interests with the talking heads and the media's interests, as though like your friends are the people in the boxes on TV, on the panels, and like the well-lit rooms with the clothing that's worth more than like your week's salary, right? Like these people are your allies, apparently, is what we're teaching them through their TV. So all of a sudden, regular people who like work regular working class jobs or white collar, blue collar jobs, whatever, are like, oh my God, I might get canceled for some of the things I said, or can you believe what if this happens to me? Well, what if someone misinterprets the conversation I'm saying, that all of a sudden, boom, I lose my job? Like, these are, we need to deconstruct this. We need to go back from the beginning. Like, what is cancel culture? Where did it even come from? The idea was just pointing at how on Twitter, people, especially Black Twitter, people would joke around and say like, oh, such and such, this thing exists. That's canceled. I'm not doing that anymore. It was the idea of a boycotts, which have existed for decades, saying that like I'm, as a regular consumer of this product, I'm deciding that based on X, Y, or Z reason, I'm no longer going to consume this product and I'm going to go elsewhere. That's the free market. That's what conservatives love. But no, cancel culture, liberals, free speech. Anyways, cancel culture is just consequences. It's just reprimand. It's just like it's cause and effect. It's tide goes in, tide goes out. It's amazing how the facts don't care about your feelings party gets all in their feelings over regular things happening. It's when people get, for example, like I was talking about this a lot on Audio Face with Sean. Morgan Wallen, the country music star, who said the N-word in that video and was yelling about it and all belligerent. No, yeah, the country music like official academy and all of those kind of groups have to be like, hey, now listen, we officially as country music can't say that that's good. And there are a bunch of Black country music artists who are like, yeah, this is country music, this sucks, but this is what it is. And guess what? Morgan Wallen's sales have been skyrocketing. He has had one of the best performing country music albums on the Billboard charts ever because he got a bump from the N-word. All right? Cancel culture is real. Watch out for the cancel culture liberals. Now, let's go to another point here, right? There's like how the thing with Dave Chappelle, because you brought up an interesting point earlier with like concerns about what you can say and racial slurs and all those different things. Well, people were pointing out, Dave Chappelle, a lot of the stuff you're saying, the new stuff you're saying, is just unnecessarily like transphobic and bigoted and stuff like that. And people were saying, oh, you're trying to cancel Dave Chappelle. You're trying to like get mad at Dave Chappelle. I was like, no, we're just expressing what makes us like upset. And we're talking about like using our behavior to say like, I'm not going to watch Dave Chappelle stuff and I'm going to support Dave Chappelle stuff if he keeps doing this. Meanwhile, Dave Chappelle is having this whole argument with Netflix and Comedy Central over the Chappelle Show, and how Dave Chappelle was upset that Comedy Central and Netflix did this deal to put the Chappelle Show on Comedy Central and have it streaming. Meanwhile, Dave Chappelle still wasn't getting his money. So Dave Chappelle was talking about getting upset, and he canceled Netflix. No, that's not what happened. Netflix made the decision to take the Chappelle Show off of their air. So Dave Chappelle canceled the Chappelle Show. No, again, that's not what happened. Netflix listened to Dave Chappelle's concerns and was like, I'm sorry. Your opinion matters to us. Of course, your opinion matters to us because you're a wealthy celebrity and like you matter for our bottom line, but your opinion matters to us and we're going to treat you like a normal person. So we're going to try to do right by you. And then Netflix did, and the Chappelle Show's on there, and Chappelle got paid, and amen. And everyone was like, look at that. That's why it's so great. You can see this perfect example of people being treated there. But at no point was it the idea of, oh, Dave Chappelle's trying to cancel Netflix, or Dave Chappelle's butthurt about Comedy Central, or Dave Chappelle's just like relaxed because he's a celebrity and he makes a lot of money, and regardless of what happens, he should just get out of his feelings already, right? No one was telling him that. But when he is being all transphobic in his comedy, the people who are calling that out get attacked for some kind of cancel culture thing. It doesn't exist. It just exists so that Republicans can claim victimhood. They talk about how Democrats love to be victims. Yeah, and then celebrities too. People in the media. It's how they can claim victimhood. It's how they can claim that they are the ones who are really upset and have the real aggrieved lives. Because at the end of the day, all Twitter did or does, or all social media does, is it takes back a little bit of the veneer that the elite have some distance from the riffraff. All right? It puts the riffraff very close ahead of them. And a lot of times they don't like what they see because the riffraff don't like the way the world is set up. And if some guy on his break can make a celebrity cry on social media, then you just made that guy's day, let alone he's living in his car, right? Like, it's just... right? Like, this is these are just the way society is set up, that there's this bubbling resentment of celebrity culture anyways. And so to respond to that, the Republicans have taken defending celebrity culture as like a strong suit, like as a thing they choose to do, not only as like a rhetorical move for cheap fundraising, because all it's doing, it's not policy-based, has nothing to do with COVID relief. We've talked about COVID relief very minimally in this entire conversation because they're not. They're using it to fundraise. They're using it to get followers. They're using it to scare people who don't know any better or don't know the dynamics of the internet and to think that this is what's going on, this is what's happening. So it's just a ploy. It's just ridiculous.
Even, especially, like, I feel like a lot of comedians especially are just using like a kind of like generally a minority Twitter narrative. Like this is something I see all the time. Like some person in the media says they report on some story and be like, yeah, I saw somebody saying like that's bad. I can't believe y'all would say that. And y'all over here saying such and such. It's like, dog, like one person on Twitter said that. It ain't like, 20 million people said this thing. It's like they're using this spectacle of cancel culture as like just for material. Like they're faking it at this point. Like, oh, I would say that, but I'm gonna get canceled. And blah. It was like,
it's a buzzword. It's just a thing that you use to sell because it's the new. it's like the hidden information thing. Like, this is the idea of Joe Rogan's podcast. You watch Joe Rogan because it's the stuff that the experts who don't make it onto TV because they're too controversial get. And so, like, there's the appeal to being counterculture and counter narrative. But when that's your cheap brand, hey, I don't want to be canceled for saying this opinion. If that's just your cheap way of saying, hey, I want to signal to Republican rubes who feel like saying racist shit is totally fine, and I want to make sure that I get their money. It's just a better way of saying that. It's really just signaling that. Really fast, I have this, just some numbers that were taken. And I'll put these like graphics up in the video, but the amount of time that and Fox News spent talking about Mr. Potato Head, pronouns, spud, French fry, are like... It's disproportionate amount of time Fox News is spending talking about Potato Head, while the other networks are barely talking about Potato Head and mostly talking about COVID relief. MSNBC kind of starts picking up on it more so than I think they should, but CNN's pretty standard and flat forward, just like, we're just going to be talking about COVID relief, and oh, by the way, Potato Head's changing one day. When you go to the Dr. Seuss aspect of the news cycle, you get something like Fox spending an hour and 9 minutes on Dr. Seuss coverage compared to 30 minutes or 26 minutes on coronavirus vaccine developments. It's like, yes, 24-hour news is a ridiculous concept, and eventually you're just going to be filling time with bullshit stories for no apparent reason. But there's a lot of real stuff going on with COVID-19. There's a lot of stuff that isn't being reported as far as people's conditions in COVID-19. But the thing that they're prioritizing by design are these fake cancel culture war issues, because it's the only way they can get their base motivated. You can't motivate your base by saying, we're the party that wants to make the minimum wage stay the same, to make sure you never make any more money. We're going to be the party of making sure that you don't get health care and you're in debt till you're 75. And even if you like get bankruptcy and you clear off all your other debt, the student debt stays, damn it. We're that party. Come out for us. That's not going to work. But if you say, well, the other party's trying to make it so Space Jam is gay, like, then of course you're gonna win. Then, like, if
wasn't it already?
I mean, I'm not gonna touch that, but just like the whole, like, we found out that basically a bunch of conservatives are just furries and hiding, reacting to the Lola the Bunny changing the design from Space Jam 1 to the new one. It's just the most ridiculous. It's not part of cancel culture. It's so bad.
It's like, you would think, I mean, no, I guess you wouldn't, but, you know, those people never talk about policy. They never talk about anything real, because like you said, they are the party of wanting people to die, actually. So yeah, you got to bring these straw man weirdo arguments and talk about, you know, they're changing your way of life. And, you know, and honestly, that 1776 project thing is a lot about that too. Talking about identity politics and stuff like that. It's ridiculous, and there's something else in the people that fall for that. Like I was saying before about politics, like there's something deeper in those people that makes them fall for that.